Guys, the UFC's first pay-per-view of the year is going down this week, and with Glover Teixeira taking on Jamal Hill for the light heavyweight strap. If that's not enough to get your blood pumping, DraftKings, today's show sponsor, is giving all new customers a great offer. All new customers, sign up for DraftKings using my promo code SONNEN. Bet at least $5 on any UFC 283 fight, and you're going to get an additional $200 in free bets instantly. Yep, that's right. New customers bet $5 on any fight of your choosing, and you will get $200 in bonus bets put into your account instantly. If you didn't know, DraftKings Sportsbook is the only sportsbook where you can combine multiple bets from the same fight for even bigger winnings. If mobile sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still get in on the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. New customers use the promo code SONNEN. Bet $5 on any UFC 283 fight and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code SONNEN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Jon Jones is the favorite over Surreal. Now, that's not what it was the day it came out. Surreal was the favorite. Jon was the underdog for like the first time in Jon's career, and it was pretty close. Plus 110 to minus 105. However it went, it was pretty close, but Jon was the underdog. He's not the underdog now. He's moved ahead. So whoever set that line, the public strongly disagreed with that. I'm just sharing for you that Jon is supposed to win that fight. When I look at it, I don't see a whole lot to see here, right? They've been setting that octagon up since 1993. Tell me a time that you saw a guy that wasn't the better wrestler not win. And you could do it, but you'd have a hard time. You could do it. But you probably couldn't do it with main events. Probably couldn't do it with world title fights. Not very many, and not very often. I share that with you because you have one of the best wrestlers in the division against a guy who's never had a wrestling match. That doesn't tell you everything you need to know, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what's going to happen should that realm get exposed. All right. Jon Jones is the favorite. Jon Jones is not younger, and Jon Jones is not big enough. We know that. He's never fought in this division. He put off fighting in this division for 3 years to try to get bigger. So we'll take him at his word. But we now know that he is the smaller guy. Okay. All of those things are fine and all of those things are true. I just laid out the principles, yet Jon Jones remains the favorite. Why does that not apply to Volkanovski when he's getting ready to take on Makhachev? Makhachev is a meaningful favorite in that fight. Makhachev is younger. Makhachev is bigger. I bring that to you because apparently those aren't very good answers. Those are the answers that I keep on being given. Those are the answers that people get discussing. It's the answers that people will leave in the comment section. And I got to push back on it and just say, well, then why doesn't that apply? I mean, if that's the math and that's the deduction we're doing, how come that doesn't apply to Jones versus Surreal? It seems like reverse logic. Now, you don't have to be consistent, right? I'm not challenging you to be consistent. I'm just challenging you. If you're not going to be consistent, maybe we should just change the narrative. Maybe we shouldn't say that Volkanovski's not big enough. Because that is created in the fans' mind. There's nobody in the locker room, the boys or the girls, at any weight class, that thinks there's any difference between 145 pounds and 155 pounds. I realize that many people in the public do. I'll just share with you that the fighters don't. That is the same thing. Fighters wouldn't say that about 205 versus 265. That is a very meaningful gap where the 205-pounder is not the same size as the 265-pounder, yet that rule still doesn't apply. Somewhere, somebody is wrong. Now, who's going to win between Volk and Makhachev? I get it. That's between those boys, the same as Jon Jones versus Surreal. I'm talking about the logic and the betting and the narrative and the belief. Red corner versus the blue corner. Favorite versus the underdog. Going into the matches, how come it isn't the same logic that applies? There was a 24/7 that was being done. 24/7 is one of the great boxing shows ever made. You guys will be familiar with Embedded. Embedded is one of the great MMA shows ever made, but it's kind of got the same theme where you're really with a guy a lot, you're really following a guy, and Manny Pacquiao was getting ready to box some scumbag. And I would provide the guy's name if I knew it. But Freddie Roach had a problem with the scumbag's coaches. And they're doing this 24/7. I mean, they're going back and forth. This guy was younger, and this guy was up and coming, and they had a common opponent, and Manny barely beat him, and this guy knocked him out. Like, you're laying out all of the groundwork for why the scumbag has a chance against Manny, and all of it's very fair. But Freddie finally speaks up at the end as we're doing this whole back and forth of who's going to win. This whole game, and Freddie finally says, I have the better fighter. It doesn't matter whose reach is longer. It doesn't matter about southpaw. It doesn't matter about your record or your amateur record. It doesn't matter about how much your mother loved you or what your wife fed you. That's all just talk. All that matters is who's better at boxing, and my guy is better than your guy. And I remember it to this day. I remember it because it was beautiful and it was simple. It reminded me of the time that Daniel Cormier was an underdog against Stipe. And one day before weigh-ins, which meant 2 days before the fight, Daniel Cormier grabbed a microphone in an open workout and told the audience, I have never lost to a heavyweight. I've never even lost a round to a heavyweight. I've never even lost a wrestling match to a heavyweight. And I remember where I was sitting. I remember this because it was all true. I followed Daniel's career. I know about the Strikeforce Grand Prix. I know about the season when he moved up to heavyweight in wrestling. He never lost even a round. He never lost to anybody at that weight class. It was so simple and it was so true. So true, much like when Freddie simply said, I have the better fighter. So if it does come down to that, if it is just that basic and simple, why are we playing the game that Volkanovski's too small? That is in nobody's mind that has ever done this sport. I mean, I really do have to make that point. Volkanovski does not get off the hook if he loses because he was smaller. 45 and 55 is the same thing. At the same time, we don't take away from Makhachev's glorious moment by saying he beat up a guy that was too small. It's the same thing. So let's just set weight aside. Let's just do that real fast. There is a pound-for-pound ranking within our industry that we all recognize. It matters a lot. It's important to some guys. Khabib and Jon Jones had a back and forth in the media. That's how much it matters to the guys. And we do respect and recognize whatever gets written down. We don't know who does it or why. We don't know if they're paid. We don't know if it's multiple people. We don't know if it's a board of people. We don't know if it's one person. We don't know if it's a computer program like the BCS. We don't know anything. But we do recognize whatever gets written down. That's true. That's a true phenomenon. And they have Volkanovski as number 1. And they have Islam on that same list at number 5. So they're either not very good at what they do or they're right. It's one of the two. It's not like one is 1 and the other is 2, and God, that's on any given day. They separated them by 5. So these experts or expert or computer program or whatever it is either not very good or Volkanovski wins. DraftKings has a current line 3-1 favoring Makhachev. So the better and the rankings committee don't agree. And only one of them can be right. And we could sit and analyze this, and we could talk about that it's in Perth. We could talk about who's got the pressure. We could talk about the fact that Khabib apparently is not going to be present, and what does that mean? We can do that, and we can play all of those games. But if we're not going to apply that same logic to Surreal versus Jones, then we're just admitting that logic isn't true. And I think that we have to default back to Freddie Roach. One guy is simply a better fighter. Between Jon Jones and Surreal Gane, who is that guy? Between Makhachev and Volkanovski, who is the better fighter?